Hi, welcome back. In this video, I will be reading out the majority of the epilogue, which features obviously in the epilogue section at the end of the first book that I wrote called Whence Come You. I think it would resonate with quite a lot of those who are watching my videos. This was written in the space of about an hour. Like most of the chapters that I wrote in the book, I ended up just writing and it came through. So it's this epilogue which just really sort of sticks with me ever since I wrote it, and it has wide application for the majority of Masons out there. So let me read it for you. Okay. Epilogue. I hope by the end of this book, I have managed to whatever degree and in whatever measure to have helped you see the craft in a slightly different light, to have assisted in the expansion of your vision, to have enabled you to challenge your own beliefs about a great many things, and to have aided in the focal transcendence of consciousness from its psychological entombment. Amid the turbulence of the ever-growing psychological storm that is sweeping across society, let us stand strong in the face of such adversity, with a show of force akin to a mountain in a most violent storm. It remains unaffected. We must recognize that the life within man and the life within all of God's creatures is one and the same. Many would assume that this statement was false, that in some way the essence within man is different from that which exists in other walks of life, for no reason other than he appears to possess greater perception of his surrounding environment and happens to boast a superior cognitive ability. If this truly were the case, however, then among the 8.7 million different species which inhabit the entire planet, why are we the only ones causing its very destruction? We don't coexist with others, we conquer and destroy. Such old attitudes of self-importance and preeminence are as a plague upon mankind and must needs be eradicated from his collective psyche. We need to flow in harmony with others, not at variance, which in turn will cause a synchronous flow with our surrounding environment, and by corollary, with the planet at large. The apparent global dominance enjoyed by man at this current time has no real bearing on his essential indistinction from other forms of life. This accounts for 7.8 million species of animal, 298,000 species of plant, 611,000 species of mushroom, mold, and other fungi, and the list just goes on. What exactly does man boast as being dominant? His mind, his actions, his benefit to the planet, his ability to traverse its many different mediums, such as water, land, air, and even leave the planet to visit the stars. All such advantages man can claim over other species are utterly meaningless if the planet on which he evolved is being destroyed by his very continued existence on it. It is important to acknowledge, albeit while appealing to the illusion of dominance, that for the sake of curtailing man's ego, he has not always been the dominant inhabitant on the planet. And even at this current moment in the Earth's history, with regards to populace by species, his number is embarrassingly low. There are some macroscopic creatures like the springtail, whose collective number is so vast around the globe that there are estimated to be 100,000 individuals per square meter of ground. Now, upon learning this, do we still feel so dominant and superior? This information should, at the very least, give cause for us to look around in humility, as our number is minute by comparison. Thus, We cannot own a planet that is not dominated by us in number. We can merely share it. In fact, the sense of possessory entitlement is a strange notion brought on by ego, which infected the minds of our kind long ago. For we come here with no possessions, and this is, of course, how we must leave. Yet we make a will before we die. Why? When a baby is born, does it bring land, metal, money, material with it? Those who are born into material wealth are only given such by their guardians, but they bring nothing but their bare selves into the world. The notion of possessory entitlement has been forced upon Mother Nature and upon Mother Earth, to the extent that we assume proprietary rights and titles over her face in exchange for this thing we call money, which arguably nowadays exists more as numbers in a bank account than either wads of green notes or bags of shiny coins. Is it right and proper, because of this monetary invention, to lay claim to vast swathes of the planet? When looking at the entire age of the planet, the length of time man has been around is shorter than a blink of an eye. The Earth has seen many species come and go since its birth, and yet here comes man with his ego, weaponry, money, and metals, claiming to have stakes in its many territories. Why do we not consider the gazelle, the deer, the baboon, the hyena, the jackal, the fox, and the mongoose to be collective owners of the Sahara Desert? They've been there a long time. The answer is because man has claimed possession over the land. Did he have a right to do this? Who cares? Man says, I could, therefore I did. I came, therefore I conquered. I saw, therefore I acquired, and so on and so forth. This sense of self-entitlement, particularly in relation to land acquisition, was the attitude of many conquerors for thousands of years, to the utter detriment, despair, and tragedy of innumerable native inhabitants around the globe. Despite our deranged self-authorization, nothing can be truly owned, because nothing that is in one's possession can remain in one's possession. An owner will die, leaving to his heirs that which he held during his lifetime, and his heirs will leave to their heirs that which they held during their lifetimes, and so on and so forth. The most any of us can truly say is that we are temporary guardians of material while the body is capable of holding us here. And as such, we must be temporary guardians of the planet. However, in relation to our species-wide role as guardians, we have failed dismally, as we have neglected almost all of our planetary responsibilities. Need I give examples? The burning rainforests, the melting polar ice caps, the vast number of pollutants pumping into the environment, and the reckless disposal of non-biodegradable waste into our oceans are but some that come to mind. We should better consider ourselves as visitors in someone else's kingdom. Would you consider it appropriate if, upon taking an instant liking to Buckingham Palace while on a guided tour of its grounds, you claim, by virtue of such an attraction, to have an automatic right of acquisition to its possessory title? No, of course you wouldn't. So why should we feel the need to act as such in respect of the earth, which is immeasurably greater than the king's palace? In addition, we are rather selective as to whom should be afforded reverence and respect. For to use the previous analogy, why should the king be afforded more than the very earth itself? We give reverence and respect to those who hold distinguished honours, wear numerous medals, and reach high positions in the craft, fawning over them in the hope of being recognised, so that we too can be welcomed into their exclusive circle. We salute them 3 times, 5 times, 7 times in open lodge. But why? Have we ever asked the question? The reverence should be to the master who runs the lodge, not an invitee or visitor who claims to rule over God himself. Would it not in fact be more an indication of reverence and humility and in keeping with the principles and tenets of the craft, for such distinguished brethren to salute the entered apprentices and fellow crafts, for they are not only representatives of the fraternity in its present condition, but are representatives of the future of Freemasonry and will be the example setters for the next generation. Guidance needs to be given as to how one should truly act on the square, and there is no better guidance than leading by example. To treat the high and the low as one is a Masonic mindset. Afford the tiler the same reverence as the immediate past master. Afford the entered apprentice the same reverence as the 33rd degree Mason. And afford the waitress who serves your meal with the same reverence as you would the Grand Master. For how can the true essence that exists within each of us be on any higher station than anyone else? In a physical bodily sense, we all have blood coursing through our veins. We all have a beating heart. We all excrete. We all sleep. We all breathe the same air. We all eat the same food, and we all drink the same water. No one deserves to be afforded more or less than anyone else, and anyone who should feel the need to argue the contrary is, to put it simply, overcome by ego. For his attachments to his own material possessions cause him to feel a sense of entitlement to them. And with such entitlement comes the notion of superiority, which is unfairly lorded over his brother, whose worth is seemingly only measured in terms of his material wealth. If we were to fawn over such high-ranking officials, we must inquire into our own behavior and ask whether it is false or genuine. Do we behave like this to other people, our own wives, children, the checkout assistants in the local supermarket, even the homeless on the street? Do we act in such a servile and ingratiating way to another because of their personality, sense of humor, insights, behavior, virtues, morals, intellect, righteousness? No. Or are we in fact fawning over the very title they hold, because we secretly covet it for ourselves? Besides, if our roles with them were suddenly reversed, and it was in fact us who held such titles rather than they, would we still be fawning over the same individuals? Such attitudes and conduct exhibited to those in an illusory position of power and status are only so exhibited because it serves us to do so in order to achieve a self-serving goal. As such behavior is self-serving, once such material goals are reached, all the energy exerted into achieving them is thereafter expended. Does the self-serving career Mason, who has his sights on Grand Lodge honours, accept the advice of an entered apprentice? He was once an entered apprentice himself, yet has forgotten to level with his fellow brother. Ego seeks dominance, whether it be over each other, a business, a lodge, an organization, a province, a piece of land, a city, a country, or the planet. We treat the planet as we treat each other, and we treat each other as we treat ourselves. We are unkind to others because we have lost sight of who we truly are. Yet if we were to happen to self-realize in an instant, then we would see that we were only causing harm to ourselves. We would act a completely different way once we were to recognize that the essence deep within is the very same essence indwelling every person and every other form of life on the planet. For we would no longer see distinction, but unity with our fellow man. Sadly, we have lost sight of ourselves in our desire for money and power, and with the examples we are given by that which we see in the news and social media concerning crime, disease, natural disaster, terror attacks, and politics, we are seemingly heading for calamity. Alas, one could weep thinking of the various crimes committed by man upon man throughout history. Mankind has woefully fallen to the depths of the widow's son, for it has turned its back on its higher nature, the needs of its mother, just as she has turned her back on her husband. But the question is there no hope for the widow's son? There is indeed hope, as his mother is not truly widowed. She has just temporarily lost sight of his father. Her various searches for her husband were called off long ago, resulting in his presumed death in the absence of any fruitful search. She thereafter adopted the title of widow without sight of the coroner's report. Therefore, the soul of man, being the amalgam of the son and his widowed mother, must now understand that the father never truly left the family unit. Instead, the father became gradually unseen by the son and the mother, as they both grew ever more preoccupied with earthly concerns. And hence, by virtue of such detachment from their necessary anchor, they have found themselves adrift at sea. So man has a choice, and it is this very notion of free will, albeit in the lower realms of reality, that we must exercise with propriety, dignity, and virtue. I truly wish for all of us to begin looking beyond personal limits, unwarranted judgments, and selfish desires to that which is all-seeing, all-embracing, and all-encompassing within the loving heart of every man. Let us see our own essence beneath the outward face of those around us. Let us love indiscriminately without borders or separation. And let us act with humility, kindness, compassion, and consideration for the needs of others. But above all else, in the expectation that these are the closing hours of our existence, let our interactions with every person and every walk of life be as though we are always walking in the presence of God. So mote it be.